some helpless person who has come from another country is somewhat insulting to him. Now, it is very possible that he had people who he was associated with doing things and keeping him completely out of the loop as far as those are concerned. That is possible. But to just absolutely say with certainty that Silvio De Sousa knew nothing about this, I think is also rising to a bit of foolishness. Another narrative that is out there is the fact that De Sousa's activities, or the activities of his associates, had nothing to do with his choice of Kansas, which I also think is a little ham-handed, because almost everybody in the industry thought that he was going to go to the University of Maryland, and he ended up at Kansas. The fact that people on his behalf were getting thousands of dollars and promising to get more thousands of dollars so that he would be headed to Kansas, I think acting like that had nothing to do with it, I think is also a little bit dubious. Is the suspension too severe for a couple of years? Yeah. I mean, basically it was the NCAA saying, we really don't want you to play college basketball at Kansas. And was that overdone? Yeah, I can see that argument. I absolutely can see that argument. But right at this point in time, what the message was from the NCAA was to players who are adults, maybe barely adults, maybe you consider them barely adults, that they were going to have to be a little more diligent in who they were being associated with. Because you just couldn't have a situation, or at least in my mind, you couldn't have a situation where people were going around seeking out money from shoe companies on the behalf of the player to direct the players to certain schools. First of all, it's unfair to a lot of the schools that couldn't even get in on this game. And secondly, if we want to have some shred of amateurism, and many people don't, and I don't quite understand their thoughts of let's let these players capitalize on their likeness. Where does this go? You hear people use examples like, well, if they want to put up a table and sign autographs for a fee. Well, there's nothing that prevents a booster to walk in there on that day and pay $20,000 for the autograph. I mean, where do we stop? I don't quite understand it. And I think what we saw during the NCAA tournament was that programs that aren't necessarily in this category, now Michigan State was in the Final Four, but the other schools, basically by choice or by circumstance, really aren't the type of schools that seem to be involved in this. They played in the Final Four. It was very entertaining. It was great college basketball where there are a whole bunch of Zion Williamsons out there. There weren't necessarily, but it was still great. It was a great finish to the tournament after a first weekend that wasn't so exciting. But this is a complicated situation again. Silvio De Sousa has made it cut and dried, at least in his comments, that if the suspension is not lifted, he's going to the NBA. If the suspension is lifted, he's going to play college basketball, cut and dried. I don't buy that either. If he were to go through this draft process and was told, and this doesn't seem likely by most reports, that he was going to be a mid to late round, first round draft choice, or maybe even a draft choice period, I think there's quite a good chance that he wouldn't come back and play college basketball. I think he's just trying to say all the right things here, and his lawyer and some of his supporters are saying all of this too to play up the victim side of it. I don't think it is cut and dried as the fact that if he has the suspension lifted, he absolutely will come back and play college basketball. I don't see that as a 100% thing in any way, shape, or form. So we'll see what plays out. We've got to the end of the month for this to play out, or a little bit longer than that. And we'll see if Silvio De Sousa is going to play basketball here, if he's going to play basketball at Kansas, if he's going to play basketball in Europe, and all that shaking out over the next couple of weeks. We move to a couple more on-the-field type topics after our first time out. Kansas City Royals sporting Kansas City. It's not all roses for those two teams either. We'll check that out coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
If you are looking for quality work on your home by a local company that values integrity as well as quality, then Easton Roofing is the easy choice. You're not just a number or contract to Easton, where no job is too big or too small. Owner Joe Spiker is always personally available to you if you have questions or concerns. For residential and commercial roofing jobs, large and small, attic insulation, gutters, and much more, Easton Roofing is the perfect choice for you. Among their countless accolades are 4 consecutive years as an Angie's List Super Service Award winner, Over 60 5-star Google reviews, over 60 5-star Yelp reviews, and Best of House honors 4 years in a row. A hands-on small business named after the owner's son, Easton Roofing does things the right way. All repairs are completed by Easton employees, and the company is completely licensed and insured. Get the personal, quality work that you are looking for the most important thing in your life, a safe and beautiful home. Visit EastonRoofing.com or call 913-257-5426. Make the best choice when you need help with your home. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
I've been doobed, and you should be next. Yes, Doob, D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. I just had one done of me. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations at their store on 119th Street in La Paloma Plaza near the Cheesecake Factory. Doob, be next. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. Kansas City Royals down in Florida now to play a series against the Tampa Bay Rays after dropping 3 out of 4 in New York against the Yankees. And the game yesterday, that one really hurt because the Royals, who had a very impressive first game to the road trip and had extended a nice streak for them where they had gone to 7-2, let one slip away yesterday after a big rally. Now, the game was basically controlled by the Yankees, and the Royals pretty much had one good inning, but another not-so-great bullpen performance over the last couple of innings led to the Royals losing, and now they're going to play against a Tampa Bay team that has been very hot, although they just got swept by the Red Sox, which probably is bad news for the Royals, because if Tampa had continued to be playing at the level they were, which was about .750 baseball, you would figure that maybe they would be due for a few losses, due to cool off a little bit. Now they're probably just going to be angry after basically breathing life into the Red Sox early season struggles. And the prospect of a bad road trip is certainly very much in play. The Royals need to make that not happen. Another 6, 7, 8 game losing streak, and of course right now they're on 3 games in a row, would be bad business for the Royals. And the reason is not because we expect the Royals to be a team that's going to contend this year, but it's a little more difficult to judge the performance of players when they're playing in games that they probably deep down know, even though it's still only April, really aren't that significant as far as winning something is concerned. I think already a lot of the pressure's been taken off the Royals by the 10-game losing streak. Sure, it's a bummer. Nobody wants to go through it. But immediately what has been set up is that this is sort of a year-long trial, not a game, not games that are being played for importance and for competitiveness and maybe playing 500 baseball or staying in the race per se, which is what Dayton Moore said they were going to do. The other disappointing thing about losing 3 out of 4 to the Yankees, and I kind of expected that, and when I was on with Samantha Petro on Danny Unleashed on Friday, I said that I thought there was a good chance they would lose the rest of the games of the series, and they did. I said, take a gander at the box score for yesterday's game. The Yankee lineup was basically their junior varsity team.
And still the Royals lost the last 3 games of that series to them. And now they play Tampa, which has done a remarkable job over the last few years of continually recreating their team with almost no budget, no atmosphere at the ballpark, or anything else. By the way, a little side note, the ballpark discussion of Yankee Stadium was, in my mind, totally overdone. Did the Yankees hit some home runs that wouldn't be home runs in other parks? Yes, they did. But first of all, they were playing in that park. The Royals hit some home runs there, too. Secondly, people act as if those balls are all outs. Most of them would at least be doubles, and so they still would be productive hits. And to act like they were playing home run derby in there and in some kind of a complete and utter bandbox, and that performances like Heath Fillmyer's would have been really good, which is what Ned Yost said, is silly, very silly. And you're playing where you play. You can hit home runs too. Yes. Do the Yankees tailor their team to that ballpark? Yes, they do. But they also were playing guys who would be in their minor league system right now, if not for the, 13 injured list players that they have right now. The real good story right now is Hunter Dozier. He continues to hit. He hit another home run yesterday. He's on pace for hitting home runs in the 40s. I don't think he's going to do that. But turning one of those disappointing top draft choices into a real player would be a big deal, and Dozier looks like perhaps he can replicate this over the course of the season. Certainly not the 40 home runs, but maybe being a real, viable, good ball player, a good eye at the plate, a lot of good things for Hunter Dozier. And the bad side of it right now, the rotation after Brad Keller is looking more shaky after a good start. Fillmyer, as I mentioned, Jacob Junis, his ERA is in the 6s, and he's giving up a bunch of home runs. Jorge Lopez has been okay, but this looks like it might not be even a reasonable strength for the Royals, and it was a real strength early in the season. And right now, I think the Royals need to just get a win in this series against Tampa, so they come home and play again without the feeling of a heavy losing streak on their backs. Well, right now, the times are not great for Sporting Kansas City, and what we thought might be a possibility for them to have a hangover for getting just absolutely blistered in their series in the CONCACAF Champions League has occurred. There's no other way to say it. They went to San Jose, a team that only won 1 game in MLS this year, and they got thumped. And they had injuries, too, in that game, and that could have a situation on down the line. If anybody who follows soccer and follows the Premier League saw this particular situation kind of play out yesterday in the Premier League, where Man U, which had just been beaten rather soundly by Barcelona in their Champions League, although not embarrassingly, it wasn't anything like Sporting and Monterrey, but then they came back to Premier League play yesterday and got absolutely punked by Everton, 4-0 in a game that they really needed a bounce back, and Sporting needed that too in the game against San Jose, and they had a full week to prepare for it. Peter Vermees said afterwards he thought the accumulation of games had something to do with it, but for a full week of rest, recovery, and training, that was the kind of performance they came out with. This is something they need to shake, and they need to shake fast. They've got a home game this weekend, another week to prepare for it, and anything but a win on Saturday will be a bad sign. They got a draw in their last MLS game. They played a bad second half in that and pulled it out at the finish. That type of performance against New England on the weekend, just a result, a draw, would not be acceptable. In my mind, they need a win, and they need one where they probably need a clean sheet. They've been giving up a lot of goals after a good early season stretch. This is an important time for Peter Vermees' team because they are already well down in the table. There's some teams in the Western Conference that are really playing good soccer, and they have gone in a matter of weeks, and really you can just sort of blame the Champions League and the impact that it had on them, both from a standpoint of a lot of games and from their feeling about themselves as players. I mean, it's natural for you to feel a letdown when you go against an opponent, and you're an underdog, but you don't feel like you're a second-class citizen, and that's what they were made to look like. And it just would be a natural thing to have a difficulty revving things back up again and say, well, this is only MLS. We tried something else, and we just got slaughtered. And They need to turn that around, that idea around right now. Home crowd can do a lot for them this weekend, and it will be very important in my mind for them to have a fun and crisp and exciting win. And one game, can that flip the switch? I think really it kind of